Okay, drum roll. The last thing we want to share with you that we've learned from 100 episodes of the 4 a.m. report is, Susan,
good naming.
Good naming.
Good naming is more important than you can possibly imagine. When I reach out to people on LinkedIn, there's so little space to put stuff in. It's important to be like, here's how I know you. Here's a quick introduction on me. And I always put in, I'm the co-host of the 4 a.m. report, a podcast on what keeps founders up at night. And when you construct a note with some care for an invite, you usually get a response, like 100% of the time, I'd say. And about 90% of the time, people come back and comment on the name. In the last week alone, people were like, can you send me your favorite episode? Can you tell me about the name? Tell me, I should go listen to it. Or I know someone who would be a great guest. So I'd say that name alone has been the gift that keeps giving for us. Would you agree?
For sure. I know a lot of times it's hard coming up with the name for a podcast because you want it to be clear what your podcast is about. You want your audience to see the title and know. So when we did decide the 4 a.m. report, and we were going to talk about marketing, the 4 a.m. report doesn't really connote marketing per se, but we put a tagline in there. A tagline can help you folks. But we really liked the 4 a.m. report because Susan and I often had discussed how, I woke up in the middle of the night thinking about this. And oftentimes it was something silly. And it was, I can't believe I wrote that as a subject line in an email. It's something silly and work-related, stress that would wake me up. And we would talk about it a lot. And that's how we came up with the name, the 4 a.m. report. The tagline is kind of the stuff that keeps marketers up at night. And that's how we originally came up with the concept. And like you said, that name has really done us well. It also inspired 100 different weird pictures of what we would be doing up at night at 4 a.m.
Right.
If we did live together.
Yeah, that's right. We don't, but that said, I think, it's difficult to wrap your head around that at a purely conceptual level. So I want to just break it down a little bit and say, so how do you arrive at names like that, and why it might initially feel like that opposes the idea of being quite literal. Like for SEO reasons, you want to clearly say what it is that you do in your podcast, right? And maybe the other side of it is something like calling it like the B2B marketing podcast. Like if we had called it something like that, how would that have fared? Maybe, yes, you might get found for it. But yesterday, while I was working on a project, it was looking for someone specific. Let's say it's an imaginary name like John Smith, who runs the B2B marketing podcast. I really was trying hard to find this person, and I had to go through 7 different podcasts of similar name things before I actually found the one. So you see what I'm saying? When you go down the literal route, you're in the crowd. Like everybody is named that way, and sometimes you don't get found. So it's really worth thinking about that creative naming. But again, that authenticity piece, right? We had a story that turned into the name. We didn't try to smart name and then turn it into a story.